Welcome to Uncomfortable Growth Uncut, where we celebrate those who defy fear, embrace growth, and live without regret. In a world that celebrates perfection, we rarely hear about the challenges, fears, and crossroads that successful leaders grapple with across work and life. Uncomfortable Growth Uncut shines a light on their personal story and the critical human skills we all need today to turn trials into triumph. So I'm here today with the delightful Chris Whitnall. Chris Whitnall is currently in between jobs, but he was formerly the CMO at Superhero, a fintech, and before that, the head of media at the Australian Broadcasting Commission. And he also has a very illustrious background in media. But I've known Chris now for about, it must be 8 or 9 years. And he's just a fabulous person, husband, father, and just all-round great human. So welcome to Uncomfortable Growth, Chris.
Thanks, Rowena. It's good to be here. Corporation, we've got a branding issue there. Australian Broadcasting Corporation. Yeah, ABC for sure.
Yeah, see, that just came out.
Yeah.
Branding issue for the ABC.
Should have focused on the much kinder introduction you gave me. Thank you.
So, Chris, we're going to jump straight in. What is your uncomfortable growth story that you'd like to share today?
We joked beforehand. I think this is my uncomfortable growth story, Rowena, having to talk about myself for 45 minutes. In all seriousness, so like I was having a little think about this and trying to unpack what my story was after you asked me, and I was like, well, what does uncomfortable growth mean, and what's the opposite of uncomfortable growth? And I guess it's comfortable growth. And kind of figured that, well, if you're growing comfortably, then you're doing it safely and you're not putting yourself out there. And this kind of led me down this path that kind of figure uncomfortable growth is something that I've been doing almost my whole adult life, particularly from a career perspective, but also personally as well. Initially kind of unconsciously, but now kind of, well, having met you and the work you've done, been a lot more conscious that that's exactly what it is, particularly over kind of like the last 4 years or so. And that kind of comes across whether it was, I moved away to university when I was 18, when everyone else was going to I went to school in Sydney, so everyone went to Sydney Uni or Macquarie and stayed with a set of friends did that, and the life-changing experience from there, I kind of fell into a role in media and advertising, as most people do, and realized and got there, and our MD was English, our chief strategy officer was English, our head of clients was English, and I kind of figured I was missing a trick and took myself off. Moved to the UK with a dodgy visa and not much experience, not really knowing what was on the other side, but kind of knowing that that's something that I wanted to do. And geez, it was hard and it took me a long time, but ended up staying there 10 years or so to kind of then coming back and still working in agencies, taking on bigger roles and bigger teams, taking on teams of 5 to managing teams of 40, to then making like a conscious realizing, well, I want to make a conscious career pivot, not just out of agencies, but potentially also out of media as well. So that led me to a job at the ABC, which is like, what does the ABC want with an ad man? But there was a perfect role for me. It was a real passion point. It was a massive growth and learning opportunity. And then to like a goal of mine, which was to move into, a really clear goal to move into a more holistic marketing role, and do that across businesses of various sizes. And I think the funny thing is, me, I'm generally a more considered person. I like to think things through and think of the angles and get the data points before making up my mind. Like my wife always jokes about how we almost got divorced when we first moved in together because I wouldn't let us buy any furniture until I like masking taped out the dimensions. She's just like, I like that couch, let's get that one. But like, funny. It's something that I've realized is like I'm generally at my best when I've had to like step off the ledge and put myself out there. Like it doesn't always work exactly how you had planned, but and I feel like comfortable. I don't want to do it, and it's kind of a definition, right? But yeah, what I've learned over time is that the best generally the best things have come from when I've done that. So like you've
Yeah.
kind of got to step over the edge and run towards the fire. And things, it might not be easy, you might fall over, but they generally work out the way. And if you want the thing that you say you want, well, you've got to make yourself probably feel uncomfortable in order to do
Mm,
that.
mm,
Kurt, I was listening to some of your old episodes, and Kurt had a good word for it. Was it consciously uncomfortable or comfortably uncomfortable or something like that? I was like, yeah,
yeah.
that's the one. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's really kind of like that. My story is kind of one of, I've kind of been doing it in numerous stages, and it's made me feel uncomfortable. But yeah,
Yeah.
how do you go so far in terms of how you do that? Yeah.
Yeah. I love also that you recognize that being uncomfortable and the growth that comes from that, it doesn't really end. So it's not something that you've done, you put yourself out there, you got to a good outcome from putting yourself out there, and then you're done. So it's something that continues to happen, that level of discomfort as we put ourselves into new or different scenarios. And I think it's really interesting too that you articulated that you like to think things through. So, so sometimes when our natural predisposition is to think things through and masking tape where the couches are going to go, not just go that one. That's the one I like. Really think it through that like, is it something that you then have to consciously override because you like to think about things, and that's such a beautiful part of what you bring to people. But how does that work also with then putting yourself out there when you like to think things through and take time?
You've just got to pick your saying, bite the bullet, run towards the fight. Like you like, but kind of, it's like I have this internal monologue. I'm going to sound like it, um, but I know that there's like, Kahneman and the left and right, and I can hear them, and it's the emotional saying, I don't like this. This isn't great. I don't want to be doing it. And the
Mm,
rational well, if you want this, you kind of have to do it. So
mm, mm,
buckle up, we're doing it, kind of thing. And then most of the time, look, it doesn't always work out. You kind of can hopefully get there in reflection and say, okay, it wasn't as bad as I thought. It wasn't as like, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. It wasn't as or it wasn't exactly how it panned out. Or yeah, I put myself out there, but it's not really as big a thing as you kind of thought it was. But
yeah.
it's a conscious conversation to go, look, yeah, I'm going to have to do this and I'm going to have to do that. I applied for the marketing academy a few years ago, which
Uh-huh.
you're well across, and that was a massive exercise in this, and it kind of was a big turning point in trying to
Mm,
realizing that you had to do a lot of this. But you go through these 4 phases of application, and so
mm.
you're doing a video about yourself, and then you're doing an interview about yourself, and you're doing about yourself. And you get to talk like, and all of those things felt super uncomfortable, but it's something I really wanted, right? And so you kind of like, you're going to have to do it if you want to. You're going to have to do it if you want to get the things that you want, and the things,
Mm,
and probably if if you want the things you're passionate about, the ambition, the things you're curious about, then it's probably going to take some level of uncomfortableness in order to get there, right? Like one of the
yeah.
things I just about myself a few years ago, like was kind of just working on values, and one of mine is like curiosity and love of
Mm,
learning. It's like, well, that kind of comes hand in hand. I'm gonna have
mm,
to figure out if I want to do this and I want to challenge myself and I want to, do new things and lean into that, then I'm
mhm.
gonna make myself feel uncomfortable across the period, and just making that pact with myself doesn't make
Yeah.
it any easier, but it's like a conscious.
Yeah. The thing that's also really interesting, I find too, is what you said before, which is it's often not as bad as what you thought it was. So in our head, we can often, we often consider the worst scenario, or what's the worst thing that can happen. It's like if you're going to have to present to people, the fear is that you trip over a cord and you fall flat on your face, or you do something that's really embarrassing. And for some reason our minds kind of go to the worst case scenario often, and then we feel the fear of worst case scenario when in fact that rarely happens. And
Yeah.
do you have any tips from your experience on how you try and pull back so that you can move forward? Because the reality is it's still uncertain. You're still going to have to step over the edge. But how do you do it in a way that there is less fear?
Um, I'm a bit of a sports nuff, so I read a lot of nonfiction and take a lot from that. And the one that stuck with me recently that resonated, and I kind of always come back to, because like a lot of what you're talking about is outcome based, right? Oh, I'm going to trip over the presentation's going to go bad.
Yeah.
It's like
I'm going to stutter and trip over my words or go blank.
kind of right. But did you see Roger Federer did like the valedictory speech to, I think it was like Dartmouth recently? He's come out and given the, hey students, here's all the tips. And the first one, he said these three things. And the first one, they all stuck with me, but the first one really stuck with me is he talks about like effortless as a myth. Like he takes effortless as he took it as an insult. Oh, look, he's so good and he does all sorts of things. But what he meant by that was like, well, you don't know how hard I have to work. So like in order to seem effortless. And so I kind of take out of that of like, I try and make sure I do the work. And then I can, or I've done the read up, or I'm overreading and I'm doing like lots of prep and I'm doing all those sorts of things. I've listened to 4 of your podcasts before I've even come on here of like doing that in a sense of like, well, if I come on and I do that, then whatever happens, happens.
I've prepared, I've done the work, and
there's the pitch, I've done this, I've done that, I've prepped for this speech, I've done this, I've done that, and from that perspective, and it kind of takes you back to this, I can only control what I can control, and I can come on and do, I can only do
my best. Do my
best, and then I can kind of leave it from there. And again, that's only a really more recent thing as well. You've always, particularly as a kid and as a teenager, you're striving to the best and you're judged on all of those sorts of rankings and schools and all that stuff. But I think as your adult life, you kind of realize I'm not going to be the best, and I probably won't be the worst at anything. Like I'm not going to. I remember when I kind of turned 30 and you start seeing the ages of the Australian Test cricket team coming up, and you realize, oh, that's probably past me. I'm never going to play for Australia, and that's okay. And you kind of make peace with that, right? And it's kind of a lot of that sort of stuff of like, well, I can only do what I can do. Like I used to say that to my team. I think they're bloody sick of me. I think they were going to get me a T-shirt made of it. Like we can just control what we can control, and then we do it. And that's kind of the thing that I go in to with these sorts of situations. It's like, well, just do what you can.
Do your best. Do what you can. Yeah, I actually say that to my kids with studying. So my eldest, Charlie, she, has very high expectations. She's one of those kids that studies really hard and then still thinks they've failed, that they didn't do well, but inevitably the marks come back good. And I say to her, I said, Charlie, if you've studied and you've done the work, so you're prepared, you're not going into an exam unprepared. It's like you don't need to worry because it will be whatever it will be. Just deep breaths, read the question. Don't, kind of go too fast through the question. Just recognize that you need to answer that question with all of the knowledge that you have and just do your best. I said it's a different conversation if, you go into an important exam and you haven't studied, which that is never her. I think that's more likely to be my younger daughter. But anyway, but it's like you've prepared, so you've done what you can, and then just don't worry because there's nothing more you can really do. Or even, too much preparation can sometimes make you more worried because you're driven by that fear of I need to know absolutely everything. It's like no one knows everything all the time. So, do the work, but just trust yourself. And if the worst thing happens and it's a question and you don't know how to answer, then so be it. You learn for next time.
Yeah, yeah. And I think it's, in particular, it's like you try and teach your kids that, right? Like I'm trying to do that
Mm-hmm.
with eldest at the moment, and it's tough because you've been like,
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't conscious of this until 30 something year old man, like, like
Yeah.
4 7 year old, like, but and I still, you still get hung up on the result, but you're kind of like, okay, well, let's get hung up on it. It doesn't mean you can't be disappointed you didn't get that, or you didn't nail
Yeah.
this, sort of stuff. But how do you learn from it and move forward and try the
Yeah.
next time and go again, right? Like this isn't to say that life isn't without its disappointments. You don't get the job you want, or okay,
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. You can't control the outcome.
where do you go, and what are you going to do about it? Like, it's not a perfect world, and
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Even when you put yourself out there, you're not guaranteed of the outcome you want.
No, but if you don't put yourself out there, you're guaranteed of you're
Never
guaranteed of
moving
never
forward.
getting. Yeah, does that make sense? Like you're
Absolutely. And I think that's such an important piece because um, putting yourself out there, I think, is about possibility.
yeah,
So when you don't put yourself out there, um, you're pretty much assured of staying the same because you haven't done anything different to change it. When you put yourself out there in whatever context that is, then there's a chance. There's an opportunity, there's a chance. Also, whatever you thought you wanted actually may lead to something else. But it was only that first step that enabled the second and the third steps to happen, which ultimately may be the thing that you are just absolutely delighted about. So,
yeah.
it's putting yourself out there is about possibility. And it's taking that step, which is the part that's uncomfortable because you just don't know what's going to happen. But to your point, you can rest assured that nothing new will happen if you don't do anything new to change the current situation.
Completely. And like coming to the realization that nothing's preordained. Like
Mhm.
you're writing your own narrative, right? Like there's other
Mhm.
factors and controls about it, but you're in the driver's seat. Don't let life
Yeah.
just kind of sailed through,
Yeah.
in the 20s, and you fall into the first job and you do all this sort of stuff, and you're like, oh, I
Yeah.
want that job and I want this one. Or do you, sitting back and going, well, actually, what's the narrative, and what do I actually want to be doing?
Yeah.
Um, and to do that, I think is interesting.
Yeah.
I had a coach a few years ago, and I was talking about how I wanted this thing and wanted to do this, and he just blanket stop. What's stopping you?
Mm.
And he just kept, and you're like, oh, I guess not. No,
Nothing.
nothing
Just
at the end of
me.
it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. My dog, like, and he just said, get out of your own way, like, and I was like, oh, okay, yeah, fair enough. Yeah,
That's right. Step aside. Let me come through. Let
yeah,
me step aside to let me through.
yeah, 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 yeah,
But it is that double narrative, right? Like, it's the left brain, the right brain, or if you want to talk about, your best self or your small self, we have a spectrum within us of, things that we know we love, but things that hold us back. And you do have to overcome the part that says, uncomfortable, don't do it. Like, just, we're fine, we're good as is. But the part that says, hold on, I actually am looking for something different or something new. And I do want that thing ahead. I do want to make an active choice. And they're two pieces of each of us. And I think we we probably don't talk enough or understand enough about how those two pieces coexist to be able to get really good about how to still act through our small voice saying, don't do it, don't do it. Just,
yeah,
think about it some more. Get some more tape. Put some more tape on the floor.
yeah. But it's kind of like, it sounds easy when you're talking about it. Don't get me wrong, I struggle with
Uh-huh.
this all the time, every day. But like, they're both there for a reason. One's telling you there's a there's a prehistoric bear outside of the cave, so don't leave.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's there for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
So like, if you just always ran at fire, then you can't be completely risk averse. But it's about how do you continually try and balance out what's the real threat.
Mm.
Just me talking,
Yeah. There's not really a bear outside our house for most of us.
I know, yeah.
Dinosaur, but the
Thank you
fear
for
of
better articulating where I'm trying to get to. Yeah, thank you.
no, no,
Yeah.
no. I know what you mean. Like the fear of, stuffing up that presentation is like a bear outside your house.
Yeah.
It's still based in fear of something bad happening.
Yeah, completely. Yeah, yeah, for sure.
So, is there a particular event or situation that you'd like to share that will kind of shares how you've been able to learn how to move through these two parts of yourself?
Um, Event or situation. I there's probably like a few, right? Like one is like one was application to the marketing academy. Thinking was, well, they're not going to want me. They only want the top 5% of marketers, and what do they want me for, and all those sorts of things. And then I'm going to have to, and there's all these other qualified people, and it was all, why not? And kind of working through those sorts of things and having to talk about it, having to face into things that you weren't good at and things you wanted to improve, and being kind of self-aware of those sorts of things as well. But also probably like switching out of, like, I'd done 15 so years in agency, for example, right? And I made a conscious choice that, well, actually, no, I want to be closer to the action. I want to be in the business. I want to be able to steer. I want to be able to be more upstream. I want to be having the conversations around, levers of profitability. Like a lot of the time in agencies, particularly where in the roles I was on, you're in a client servicing role, coming in a lot further down the pipe than probably when you want to have the conversations about revenue and profitability, and understanding that marketing has, how businesses grow, marketing touches almost every lever that you've got, right, in terms of how you do that, and have those bigger conversations. But I could have happily, I was having a great time working on great clients with great people. I could have happily stayed there. But kind of making that pivot to go, well, no, this is something I really want to do. And knowing this is going to be hard. Like, I'm going to have to take lateral steps. I'm going to have to take different steps. I'm going to need to not focus on, the thing I've tried and tell my team and others is, like, it's not about title. It's about like passion and curiosity and scope and challenge and those sorts of things. Like, what is going to get you up and get you excited? Like, I love the work that I do, and I'm really bloody passionate about it. So, like, what is it that's going to find that, and understanding that, rather than going, oh, I just need to race to the top, and that, which is probably the 20s, which is where we all are, right? We're always in a hurry.
And success must be that, like, bit up there.
And that's taken me quite some time to do, right? Like, that wasn't an overnight, oh, I want to go into a full funnel marketing role, and this is the thing that's happened. You've got to figure, if here's the place I want to be, then what are the steps I'm going to need to do? Where am I going to need to upskill? What are the little bits along the way, in order to do that? And how's that going to make you feel? Because you're going to need to be uncomfortable across the period. You're going to need to take jobs where, you can smash 70, 60, 70% of the role, but there's 30% that you're not sure about. But that's probably the most exciting. That's the bit you want. They're the ones that having to do that as well. So yeah, maybe those two. And
I know a lot of people, well, all the time, I find, because I chat with a lot of people, and career is one of the big areas, whether it's because someone wants to move into a different type of role. So like you went from agency to the ABC and then to client side. So, sometimes people want to move to a different type of role, or they might want to completely change what it is they've done for the first decade or so. They might
Absolutely,
want
yeah.
to change from marketing to accounting or engineering. I mean, that's also a choice that some
Yes.
people make. They don't like their career choice any longer. They want to do something different. And it can feel like to go from A to B can feel really far. But I like what you were talking about in terms of, well, how do you break it down? How do you make it into smaller steps, things
Yeah.
that you can do? And how do you learn as you go along the way? Because it's unlikely to happen in one big jump.
Yeah.
It's often more lots of micro leaps, but
Yeah.
all together they move you to a place.
Yeah, and enjoy those leaps that you're going, right? Like it's not saying
Mm.
you can have big goals and dreams and aspirations, but don't be
Mm.
really focused on that because 100%, like I didn't map out any of it. You have a conscious point in the distance, but you don't have a
Mm.
path. You don't
Mhm.
have a set path in terms of how you're getting there, right? So it's like, how are you? Okay, these are the sorts of things I'm after, but I'm going to bloody enjoy the place that I'm in now, and I'm going to throw
Yeah.
myself passionate and make sure it's ticking all of those boxes. Because if you're just running towards, you
Yeah.
usually find you're never going to get there. And then when you get there, you're the dogs that caught the car. Like, yeah. So I just don't want it to come across like it's like it's a master plan with different things. It's not. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, is the conscious pivot of where I'd like to be, and then what are the sorts of things that like start to answer that and use that. Better way of articulating is how do you use that as a lens over things that you're doing and how you're
Mm.
growing and driving your uncomfortable growth. Where are you,
Mm.
what are you learning and how are you, it kind of gives you a lens of like, well, what do I want to learn and what am I curious about and what am I those sorts of
Mm.
learn
Mm.
how we do.
Yeah. Because the other thing too is sometimes we also, if we have a plan, we can get so committed and focus on the plan that we actually miss other opportunities that are right there in front of us.
Completely.
And one of my philosophies has always been, how do you parallel path? So, particularly when, if you, to your point, if you're here and you kind of have this general idea that you want to get over here, so you want to do something different, but you're not sure how to get there. And people will often ask me, well, do we just make out a plan and then move towards the plan? And I'm like, you can do that. I said, but don't be attached to one plan. I have a strong philosophy, which is parallel path. So, if you're looking at, say, how to move from marketing to engineering, say, I said, don't just focus on, one path, which may be, I don't know, going back and doing a new qualification. I like do that, but then also talk to people in engineering or people who have already made the switch maybe from another field to engineering, or maybe you can join an engineering association, or
Yeah,
maybe you start to um, ask where you're currently working if you can get some project experience, if there's an engineering group or whatever that looks like. Because I think we become attached to our own plans. But
yes.
to your point, it rarely works out as the plan. Like I would almost say it never works out as per the plan. And so if you don't know if that plan's going to work, then don't be so attached to it. Just pursue lots of things that could possibly work. And because the more things you pursue, the more you parallel path, the more likely something is to stick or create an event that leads you to the next place and to the next place and to the next place.
Completely. Like, I don't think anyone with that sort of plan would have said, go take a job at the ABC. Like redefining like fantastic 4 or 5 years of my life and career, worked with great people, a great boss, great, like doing great work, interesting,
Mhm.
fantastic, passionate work. So like don't get so hung up on the plan that you're realizing what's right in front of you, like
Yeah.
and you're enjoying that you're growing there and you're doing all those sorts of things as well. Like, yeah, um, enjoy the, enjoy the now, like,
Yeah.
and if it's filling up the uncomfortable,
Mm.
you grow doesn't mean new. grow means like it doesn't have to be that. It can be where you're at, it can be what you're doing. And there's lots of different ways in order to kind of feel that what was the term Kurt used? Like consciously uncomfortable, effortlessly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry,
Yeah.
I've really butchered that. Sorry, Kurt. Yeah. Yeah.
So true, so true. And it is important to appreciate the now, because that's the only day you can live.
Yes.
And we talk a lot about being present and how to be in the moment, but it is so important, because otherwise you're missing out. And I do believe from my own experience that the journey is actually the destination. To the point you're making, like you might have, a kind of bigger idea of where you want to move, but that can change. You may actually love what you're doing.
Yeah.
You could have stayed at the ABC for longer. Um,
Yeah.
so it's not about a right or wrong. It's about, is this serving you? Is this fulfilling you? Do you feel that you're growing, that you're getting the challenge, but you're also getting the excitement and the joy and the passion that comes with enjoying what you're doing and feeling like you're learning, contributing, and making a difference.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Like it doesn't have to be new and the next new thing and the new thing on the plan. Like that was
Yeah.
in the framing of the question that you gave. But that uncomfortable growth comes in other ways. Okay, I'm going to get better at presenting. I'm going to do like
Yes.
use that as
Yeah.
an example before. Like it doesn't mean new. There's other ways in order to do
Well,
that.
and Kurt talked a lot about that actually, because he's been at Seven West Media for 33 years.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Right. Like that's a perfect
Yeah.
example. That's
Yeah.
put himself out there and continually
Yeah.
um, consciously kind of done it, but it's done
Yeah.
it in the spot.
In-
Yeah, for sure.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so it's so interesting. I've actually had people who've done my program who have ended up not changing, but had a completely different mindset
Yeah.
around what they were doing. And I think that is as valid as anything else, right? Like you're the only one who can assess if this is helping you to grow, and are you happy with the level of growth that you're receiving. And it doesn't always have to be high change or something that's visibly different. Sometimes the difference is in us and the way we look at things and the way we perceive things.
Yeah.
And I think that, again, it's so important to explore the different options for growth, because it could be right there,
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
right in front of us. And sometimes we assume that it couldn't be right in front of us, but it actually is.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, for sure. And your growth is often the answer to someone else's question, right? Like, it's where I found is like, oh, I'm really passionate about this, or I want to do that. Oh, great, fantastic.
Mhm.
Please go ahead, or I want to be able to do that.
Mhm.
Or how do you, if it's not, and we're talking kind of within a work environment, it doesn't always have to be within a work environment. And how do you take control of that yourself? Like, so if you're not getting it from
Mhm.
place, it can come from elsewhere. And how do you kind of take personal accountability for your growth there, and whatever that is? It could be
Yeah.
10, it could be a course, it could be
Okay.
analytics, it could be all of those sorts of things, right? Like
Yeah.
and in terms of how you do that, but just trying to making sure that you've got that, you're doing it somewhere, like
Yeah.
it's where in your life that it's kind of and for me it's really important. It's like this love of learning and curiosity, and okay, well, I'm not getting it here, how am I getting it somewhere else? And what I've found is like, if I'm at my best when that is like key value of mine, when that value is aligned with what I'm doing, is when I'm kind of at my best. And where if I'm not, how am I making sure that I can do that in some other area of my life? Like, what's the thing I can be focusing on and kind of getting better at and growing at and finding out more about and reading more about and doing all those sorts of things. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll tell you one that I'm doing at the moment, and it's not a big thing at all. But so this morning, so I'm up at Pearl Beach at the moment. And just a couple of months ago, a friend of mine introduced me to, she said cold water swimming. I would call it freezing water swimming. And but I did it with her. We were down in Melbourne and it was even colder down there. And she's like, come on, let's just do it. Like you feel amazing. And so
Yeah.
I was thinking, okay, I'm just going to do it. I'm not going to think about it too much because I know it's going to be freezing.
Yeah.
And I did it and it was incredible. And I actually discovered that within a minute, your whole body goes numb. So you actually don't feel cold. So I was thinking I was going to be like blue and shivering and freezing. And I discovered that actually it's just a minute of that kind of can't breathe feeling. And then you go numb and then it's beautiful,
Yeah.
for a good 5-10 minutes.
It's
And
all synapses firing. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, it was incredible. So this morning I got up and I had my hoodie, my big hoodie over my swimmers because I'm like, I don't want to get too cold before I hit the water. And then I went in, to the beach and I swam in there for about 10 minutes and it was magnificent. It was absolutely magnificent. And, it's just little things like that. Like it was so joyous. I felt so good afterwards.
yeah.
And, just learning that how joyful that can be, something that I thought would be awful originally. And a lot of other people, when I was walking back, they were looking at me going, I can't believe you went in the water. And I'm like, it's amazing. It's magnificent. And they're like, no, I'm not going in. But, it's such a small thing, but it was so amazing.
Well, that's a perfect example of what we were talking about earlier, right? Your brain's there going, "Are you mad?" Like it's like going to be good. This is not going to be good. And then you come out and you're like, wow, I feel fantastic. That wasn't that bad. I don't have hypothermia. I'm fine. And
Yeah, yeah,
I'm firing and I'm ready for the day,
yeah,
And it's 2 minutes of uncomfortableness. And now you're like, it's done and you're feeling great and you're getting all the goodness off the back of it, right? But I
exactly.
guarantee, knowing you, uh, you would have been there going, oh, I'm not sure about this. I'd much rather stay in
Oh
bed and have
yeah.
coffee. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. There's a big part of me that, I set my alarm for 7. Excuse me. And a big part of me was saying, I think I'm gonna stay in bed because it's nice and warm and cozy. And I'm like, no, I'm getting up. I'm going to put my swimmers on and just do it.
yeah.
And it's
Good.
incredible. You have
Yeah,
to override. Like even though I know how good it is,
yeah,
there's still that initial warmth and comfort of winter and being in bed and snuggling for an extra 15 minutes.
yeah, yeah. Sure.
Conscious override.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. The conscious, I'm going to have to do this, but it's going to be good. I'm going to feel
Yeah,
better.
exactly. It is going to be good. So I've got some quick fire questions for you, Chris.
Yeah, sure.
Are you ready?
Yep.
Okay, the first one. What are 3 things you've learned about yourself in recent years?
Um, I think we've touched on it a little bit, but like one thing I've learned about myself, I'm not sure I've learned about myself, but it's definitely something that I continually try and apply is like this, I can only control like what I can control, like if I do
Mhm.
the effort, do all those sorts of things, like um, I used to be very outcome focused and now I'm trying to move myself away from that, and you hear it a lot in professional sports of like, oh,
Mhm.
a process and I can do all these things and kind of takes care of itself. But, it's something that I kind of find solace in. And try and bring myself back to, particularly in points of like high stress as well, right? Like, oh, we've got to do this and we've got a really tight deadline and we need to do all those things. It's like, well, we can't invent new hours. We're going to do the best job we can with the time that we've got.
Yep.
That's just that's the way it's going to need to be. What else? I talked about it a while ago, but like I did some work a little while ago on like things that are really important to me and like values that I try and stick by. And it may be confirmation bias, but the things I've learned is that like I'm at my best and like I'm just a better person, I think, when I've kind of got that and I'm aligned and I'm doing work and I've got those sorts of things that have been aligned in my life. Like one of them's humor, for example. And
Mhm.
my wife said to me the other day, she's like, I can tell you're happy because you're starting to take the piss out of me again. So
Yes.
yeah. And what was the last one? Oh, this might sound a bit corny, but like things I've learned is that like I'm pretty bloody lucky. Like I've got a great family. I've got fantastic friends. I get to work in a great industry in one of the luckier countries on the planet. And look, my life hasn't been without like personal tragedy and speed bumps on the whole, but like I'm very lucky to have the people around me, including yourself. And I try not to take that for granted too much. It's something I'm really trying to remind, like, not that I've learned it, but I've definitely been more conscious of
Yeah.
in recent times. And how do you make sure that you're not taking that for granted and paying it back, and just reminding yourself when things aren't great that
Yeah. We're still probably in the 0.001% of lucky people on the planet.
completely. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I think about that too. And it's a wonderful thing to reflect, because life isn't fair. Not everyone gets the same hand of cards.
No, and the ones I've got have been pretty damn good. So
Yeah.
like, this isn't to say it's all been peachy creamy and it's not been without like personal tragedy, but it's you've kind of got to count your blessings of what you do have.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like I think it's important. Definitely something that I've learned about myself.
I love that. Okay, next one. What's important to you at the moment in your life?
Equally corny, and apologies. Like I got really into stoicism, and it might be coming back to this. You can control it, you can control stuff. In like kind of over and post COVID, and a big part of that is like imagining that everything passes. Like it's a lot easier said than done, but we're at this like kind of point in time. But it's something. My most important bit at the moment is like I'm really trying to take that on with my family at the moment, and focus on that. I've got 2 kids, as you know, age 7 and 4, and it's like such a brilliant age. Like they get on fantastically. They're still at that age where they love you, they're obsessed with you. But kind of, you've got friends with older children, and look, I remember I was a horrible teenager, so I kind of know that like, so I know that this period will pass. So like, how do I try and make sure I enjoy that? I set myself a resolution a few years ago of like saying yes to my kids more. Like, hey, can you play with me? No, I'm busy doing the dishes. The dishes will wait, like, and so I've kind of kept that on, and it sits at the back of my brain and so whenever they're asking things and trying to make decisions, it's like, how do you do this and how do you do that?
I love that. Say yes more. And just like enjoy it, the moments, because it's the moments, right?
Kind of, and you've got to balance that. Don't get me wrong, with discipline and all this. It's not saying we're going crazy, but like when you just can't be bothered, or you've been playing for 15, been playing Barbies for 20 minutes, 15, 20 minutes. You kind of like, come on, like this extra 10 minutes is massive for them, and what are you going to do? Do like, no, come on. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Let's get into Barbie.
Yeah.
I love that. And the last one is, it's got 3 parts. What is a current fear, a current inspiration, and a current challenge for you at the moment?
The fear is the one I struggle with the most, and it probably kind of the things I'm most scared of, things that you hold dearest. Like, so it probably kind of comes back to how do you be in the moment and those fleeting, and not making your time with the ones, and how do you give the energy. Again, it was something that I heard, I think it was Kamal from Resilium, was like, how do you give energy to the people that will come to your funeral? Sounds morbid, steeped in stoicism, but like, how are you making sure that you're doing that and giving your energy to the right places, but also then there's a balance to all of this in terms of how you do that. Challenges, let's go back to talk a bit personal, but probably more the professional, in that sense of like, and anyone that cares to listen to me rant will know that I've got this fundamental belief that like, I don't think the rules of marketing have changed a lot in the last 40 to 50 years. It's
Yeah.
essentially about human behavior, and the human brain hasn't changed that much in how we act and all those sorts of things. You know, how we do it has, you know, the channels and the tactics and all those sorts of things, but ultimately the haven't. And the challenge for me at the moment is like, and you get all these fads and you try and sort through those sorts of things. And the challenge I'm kind of working through at the moment is like, is AI the exception to the rule? And so is this just another fad of that we've been through all of these other, you know, with programmatic crypto and all these sorts of things. Like, and I haven't totally made up my mind, but it certainly got me thinking that maybe this could be the exception, or is it going to change how we do things so fundamentally that then some of those rules change in terms of how we do that? So the challenge I'm kind of setting for myself for the moment is like coming up with a perspective and point of view, you know, and these can change when the data changes. So just trying to throw myself into that a little bit more. But that's a bit professional, nerdy there. And then the last one was
inspiration.
I was going to use RFED and the thing that I've already talked about that earlier. I'm currently reading, so I read a lot of like nonfiction. I'm not big on fiction, get different perspective, and I'm currently reading Lee Sales' latest book, Storytellers. Anyone that knows me, it's right up my street. It's Lee Sales. It's about the media. I've got a lot of friends that are journalists. It's nonfiction, but just some of the, and it's really just about the art of journalism, which again, I'm not a journo, but I think there's some really interesting bits in there that I'm loving. Two parts. One is just the art of storytelling, like, and you know, how to get better at that. I think there's some really interesting things around. We're always trying to show evidence of industry and presentations and all these sorts of things, and look how smart we are. These guys are doing massive things in 90 seconds, and how are you writing for that and thinking about how you write for that? So that's a bit of inspiration, but also it got me thinking just around your uncomfortable, I think there's something in there around uncomfortable growth, in the sense of like, a lot of them are they're doing that running towards the fire thing, you know, they're doing that running towards the uncomfortable growth in their day-to-day lives, and they're kind of consciously having that decision because they want to know, they want to get the story, or they're kind of doing all those sorts of things. So let's say that's an inspiration. Like, there's some learnings in there, so that's kind of an inspiration. Yeah,
I love that. And I can't wait to hear your point of view too when you get to the challenge of what's happening in the world at the moment from a work perspective.
Even from a marketing, like the world is too big to take on, but even just from a marketing perspective, like, just you got to think, it's like, well, I can take all of this thinking that's been uploaded, and then I can, here's all the theory, and then I can perfectly apply the positioning that's going to work perfectly based on all of these sorts of things. But then if everyone's doing it, then does it become table stakes, right? So is there to be a role for artisans and the creative thinking and human that lies over the top? Otherwise, everything's the same. So
as baseline.
That's where I'm trying to figure out, because otherwise we'll all be the same, you know. We'll just be opposing each other. And nothing will stand out when you
think about with that one.
There you go, down the rabbit hole. That's a challenge.
I love it. I love a good rabbit hole as well. Well, thanks so much, Chris. It's been wonderful chatting to you. And
I hope it was helpful.
No, it's been fabulous, and I think there's just so many nuggets of insight that will help so many of the people listening to this. So thank you so much for coming on.
Not at all. Thanks for having me.
If you are inspired but thinking, I can't do that, then you are so wrong. Anyone can learn the art of uncomfortable growth with the help of my flagship program, Uncomfortable Growth, Own Your Reinvention. In this, you will learn to navigate your own internal contradictions to finally unlock the courage and commitment to live a deeply meaningful life by design and on your terms. Uncomfortable growth is about the struggle and joy in discovering who you are, what you truly want, and how to make it happen. If this is something you are ready for, then find out more at www.rowenamillward.com. What have you got to lose, or more importantly, gain?